Fame, fortune, and love. Courtney Clenney had it all, but that love soon turned sour. What forced this model to domestically abuse her partner and eventually murder? Let's find out in today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to episode 10 of Charlie.inkspired. We're in the double digits now, so there's officially no turning back. I hope you're all doing well. As always, thank you so much for the love on last week's episode and for bearing with me whilst I get used to my new setup and mic. I'm learning live with you guys, okay? So I really appreciate you being patient as always. In today's episode, we're going to delve into another recent case that is technically still yet to be resolved in terms of sentencing, but we'll go more into that later. A tragic case that involves multiple counts of violence and domestic abuse. So before we go any further, let me say my usual disclaimer. I do not mean any harm nor disrespect to the families or victims involved in today's case. These episodes are researched by myself and myself only, with the information that's already available online. I do like to put my opinions into my episodes, so please bear that in mind. You do not have to agree with them, but as you are entitled to yours, I am also entitled to mine. Lastly, today's episode, we go into a lot of detail about domestic violence, injury, and murder, so if you are not in the headspace for that right now, that's absolutely fine. Pause here, take a break, and come back when you're feeling up to it. With all that being said, let's take a breath in and out. Okay, let's begin. So like I said, today's case is going to be a recent one, which can only mean that technology is on our side and we have a lot of evidence. And a lot of today's case was evidenced on CCTV and social media. Yeah, the joys of social media. Toxic, but quite useful when it comes to true crime. We're going to start the case today with our victim, Christian Obumseli. Christian was born on the 12th of April 1994 in Texas. He was loved so dearly by his friends and family, but he often went by the nickname Toby. For today's case, we'll refer to him as Christian, but a lot of people throughout the case do refer to him as Toby, but for the sake of not confusing myself mainly, and you, we're going to go with Christian. Christian was kind, compassionate, and very level-headed, as he was described by his friends. They said he always had a smile on his face no matter what, making him just the best presence to be around. During his time at Murphy Middle School, Christian discovered his love for basketball and football. He had a natural talent for sports. His coaches at school recalled him as being caring with a fantastic work ethic. Throughout high school, Christian continued to practice his love for these sports, and he became really talented at them. When he left high school, he dove deep into the world of crypto and stocks, which turns out he was also really good at. He managed to make this a full-time career, as he successfully invested enough to make a very comfortable living, let's say. And fair play, Christian, to be able to turn that into a career, full-time. Work smart, not hard. So, like I said, Christian has started to build this really comfortable life for himself, but he really wanted to share that with somebody. And in 2020, Christian met Courtney. The pair fell in love fast and hard. Within weeks, they were inseparable. Their friends said that everything seemed great at first. They were constantly out with each other, having fun, going to events, partying, and everyone was watching their relationship unfold online. But within months, this happy relationship started to change. But before we get onto that, let's get to know Courtney a little better. Courtney was born on the 12th of April 1996 to her mother Deborah and her father Kim. Courtney lived with her mum, dad, and sister, also in Texas. The girls grew up with a very comfortable lifestyle. Their dad was a financial advisor, so the girls, realistically, they grew up spoiled, and I don't think there's any shame in saying that. Throughout her school life, Courtney was popular. She got into sports at a very young age, so obviously American high schools, whoever does sports is going to be popular automatically, but she seemed to have a real natural gift for it. She loved football, dancing, gymnastics, horse riding. Courtney's love for sports and fitness only started to grow, and Courtney started going to the gym. So soon, she found out her passion for personal fitness and decided to push this into a career. Courtney dropped out of college and became a qualified personal trainer. Around this time, Courtney started to document her fitness journey, career, and just general lifestyle online for everyone to see. And the followers started rolling in. Probably unsurprisingly, as she was conventionally an attractive blonde bombshell, as her friends would describe her. Courtney even started her own YouTube channel, where she would share tips and tricks on how to grow your own social media by consistently posting. By this point, Courtney had racked up over 1 million followers on Instagram, which is no mean feat. Like, it's nothing to scoff at. That's quite a number to achieve. But because of this, she was getting more and more career opportunities. She was interviewed at Playboy and multiple podcasts and became brand ambassadors for multiple fitness companies. Which brings us on to the infamous site of OnlyFans. OnlyFans was created in 2016 for creators to share their work with their fans and for their fans to actually pay for this service. And this could be anything. You can post whatever you like. There are people that post art on there, music, fitness content, and even modelling, as it's so commonly associated with, I guess you would say. Courtney saw an opportunity here. With 1 million followers already behind her, it made sense to start this. After all, she was already posting bikini pics online for free. Why not swap bikini for lingerie and charge them for it? I mean, it's a no-brainer. And she made a huge success of this. In 2020, she earned over $1 million on OnlyFans alone, alongside all the money she was making on social media. It was actually later revealed that her parents had no idea about her OnlyFans career until this case became public, which is quite a thing to hide when you have over 1 million people following you and to suddenly become a millionaire at the age of 23. But as we go on to find out, Courtney liked to hide a secret. So it was in the year 2020 that the pair met and they started their relationship. And it started off strong, but within months, the happy fairy tale soon changed. Christian's friends started to notice he became withdrawn and preoccupied and seemed just generally down, not his usual smiley self. So it seemed odd to them that everything just suddenly changed. But behind the scenes of the happy couple snaps online, Courtney had started to become controlling. She started to control who Christian went out to see, where he went, and she even demanded that he constantly share his live location with her on his phone, but would often refuse to do the same in return for him. And if he dared ever even mentioned another girl's name, she would become irate and irrational, calling him a cheater. Unsurprisingly, this soon began to escalate as Courtney became more and more dependent on alcohol. She would go out to bars and clubs every night, becoming a regular at her local town. Sadly, whenever Courtney would drink, she would become incredibly violent towards Christian. And although this abuse started out verbal, it soon turned physical, where Courtney started hitting and punching him in the chest and shoulders. By this point, the pair were in a very, very toxic relationship and would argue often, break up and then get back together, all within the space of sometimes hours. But Christian was utterly infatuated with Courtney. He loved her, and he never, ever wanted to leave her. The couple constantly got back together, where they decided that Christian would become Courtney's personal assistant, meaning they were around each other, working together 24/7, which only escalated the turmoil of their relationship. By 2021, Courtney was becoming more and more well known to the police, as she was arrested for 2 driving under the influence charges. Clearly, her alcohol dependency was taking shape over a lot of her life and not just her relationship with Christian. But police were also aware of their relationship, as in 2021 the police were called following an argument that broke out between the two, where Courtney threw a glass at Christian's head and it smashed all over the floor. Officers separate the two and speak to Courtney in a separate room, where they ask what happened, and she said, "Things got blown out of proportion, like, to the max." She begins to explain to the officers why they were arguing. When the officer asked, "Why did you call us?"
Once again, for what? Why did you call for help?
Because we were getting really loud. We were getting loud. And I was like, oh my God, we're gonna like do damage to the room or something. Not damage to each other. Like I really want to like.
But why would you think?
That.
Why would you think that you were gonna do damage to the room?
Like throwing something.
Did you throw something?
Did I?
Yeah.
No.
So why would you think that there is damage to the room to be made?
Because I've done that before in our house, and I.
What have you done?
Thrown a glass at him, plate.
The officer points out the broken glass on the floor at the time and asks where it came from if nobody threw anything.
When I go to the room and I see a broken glass on the floor, where did the glass come from?
I don't know. I literally couldn't even remember how the fight started.
Okay, well.
Was there?
Yeah.
Maybe I did.
Did anybody punch, hit, spit, throw anything at each other? Did he hit you or you did at him?
Well, I'm guessing that I threw a glass.
Did you remember throwing the glass?
No, I don't. But that sounds like me, so.
But Courtney does some of the worst attempts I've ever seen at portraying herself as innocent. In fact, she loves to incriminate herself. As we've just seen, she's willingly given up the information that yes, she has assaulted Christian multiple times in the past. And in fact, it sounds like quite in her character to do so. As a result of this conversation with officers following this argument and the glass being thrown at Christian's head, Courtney was arrested for assault and was held in custody for 12 hours. But after that 12 hours was over, she was released on bail, and Christian didn't want to press charges on the assault, and he just wanted her home. This is something that's really, unfortunately, it's really, really common in domestic violence cases. Often it takes years and years for the victim to finally feel like they can speak up or actually press charges against the aggressor, because the most dangerous point of a victim of domestic violence is when they decide to leave. I saw it so many times when I worked in the contact centre at the police. You'd have regular couples known for domestic altercations, and the victim would start talking to you, and then all of a sudden they'd change their mind and they didn't want anything further to be done. Sadly, if the victim doesn't want anything further to be done or any further action to be taken, a lot of the time, unless there's a serious assault involved resulting in severe injuries or, of course, death, then nothing can be done. And officers just have to be like, okay, if you're sure, but we're here if you want to escalate it at any point. Because ultimately the police have to be victim-led. And that was one of the most heartbreaking things, I think, in my opinion, that I had to deal with, was seeing people be treated so badly, but they're so controlled by their partners that they can't see what's happening, or they don't want to admit what's happening. They're too scared to take that leap. But what can you do? The victim has to be ready to do it. In November 2021, the couple broke out into another altercation, which resulted in Courtney stabbing Christian in the leg. But the couple immediately made up and were back together. But within 48 hours of this incident, they fell out again, where Christian sent the following text to Courtney. The crazy thing about all of this is that yesterday, when you stabbed me in the leg and you saw how bad it was hurting me, I couldn't walk. You were telling me, I wish I could take your pain away. I wish it was me and not you. The next morning, I still woke up happy. I still gave you a good day, even though my leg was hurting because my girlfriend stabbed me. So you're telling me that you can't do the same thing the next day and say, whatever happened last night is a new day, because that's what I'd do for you. Did I make you feel like shit for stabbing me? No. I sucked it up and hoped tomorrow would be better, which again just shows the severity of the situation. Even after he's been physically stabbed in the leg, his priorities lay with making sure Courtney's okay. And I really, really feel for Christian throughout this whole case. He knows he shouldn't be treated like that in the slightest, but he doesn't know what else to do. Despite their turbulent ups and downs, the couple decide it's time to move into their own place together. And I'm putting this out there: the house, the baby, the dog will never save your relationship if it's violent and toxic. We've all been there. We've all said to ourselves, oh, but it'll be better when we have our own space. Don't do it. It's a trap. Anyway, the couple knew they wanted to move away from Texas. Christian really wanted to move to London, whereas Courtney insisted on moving to Miami, Florida. So of course they compromised and naturally went where Courtney wanted to go. So in January 2022, the couple moved over 1,100 miles from Texas to Miami, which is quite a way to move. Miami is well known for its bars, clubs, and nightlife, which we can only assume played a big part in the appeal for Courtney. But nonetheless, they started renting a penthouse apartment that overlooked the North Atlantic Ocean. This penthouse apartment cost them over $10,000 a month to rent. I mean, you can see the pictures of this apartment, and quite clearly it's a very high-end, like bougie apartment, and it's a very high-end location, obviously. So I knew it would be expensive, but geez, surely it should be illegal to charge that much rent a month. At this point, if you can afford $10,000 a month, why don't you just buy? But Courtney would often post on social media boasting about how she pays all of this by herself and that Christian doesn't put in anything, meaning that she can kick him out at any point if he misbehaved. Okay, listen. I get it if she didn't want to be financially tied to him, so that they had the option to split down the line if it came to that. Arguably, that's a smart move to do. I've done similar where my own partner lives with me, but he isn't on the mortgage because, frankly, it's messy if you do end up splitting. You have to get solicitors involved, blah, blah, blah. But to use this as leverage against your partner doesn't sit right with me. Just imagine if the roles were reversed and Christian said to nearly 2 million followers at this point on the internet that he can kick his girlfriend out whenever he likes if she misbehaves. Yeah, it wouldn't go down well, would it? The pair began to settle in their new life on the Miami coast. Courtney became a regular at the local bars and clubs, living their luxury life out on social media. But within 2 months of living in Florida, the police had already visited them twice, with a further 12 calls made to the police following domestic arguments that occurred between the two. And as we saw from Courtney's earlier interviews with the police in Texas, she was pretty open about the fact that she was aggressive towards Christian. She even did multiple public interviews where she admits that she loves to be in charge and is very toxic.
I'm Courtney Taylor, and I do OF for a living.
OnlyFans. You got like 1 million followers or something?
2 million.
Damn. You look like the type of girl that only dates like rich guys. Is that true?
No, that's not true. I only date black guys. Let me clarify. I only date rich
Okay,
black guys.
rich black guys. There we go. So you know you're toxic.
Yeah.
Do you like to be fully controlled?
Well, yeah, in the bedroom,
Yes.
but like in my life, I don't like anybody to tell me what to do.
Yeah, so you only want them to tell you what to
Yeah.
do in the bedroom. Other than that, you don't want them to tell you anything.
Right. That's exactly it. Yes.
The couple continued in this vicious cycle of Courtney attacking Christian, then showing remorse and repairing the relationship, and she even began screaming racial slurs in his face and throwing his belongings over the balcony of their apartment. Often with personalities like Courtney's, for argument's sake, let's use the word narcissist. Don't come for me, I'm just trying to provide an example. But in coercive and controlling relationships or abusive relationships with narcissists, they love to have all of the control, including when it comes to making up for their actions. They will shower their partner with gifts in hopes it will repair their relationship. But in actuality, it's less of a I'm sorry and more of a okay, they've caught the behaviour there, so I need to do something to keep them sweet with me. Because ultimately, they don't want to lose that control that they have over the other person. And this is something that Courtney did regularly. She showered him with luxury gifts, costing thousands and thousands of dollars. One time, after Courtney threw all of Christian's clothes over the balcony, she went out and bought him a Louis Vuitton luggage set filled with clothes, costing over $10,000. Think of it like love bombing. They lavish someone with attention and affection in order to influence or manipulate them. Typically, love bombing occurs at the beginning of a controlling relationship, where the aggressor shows their partner words of affirmation, gifts, wonderful experiences, in order to convince them that they are just the perfect partner. In some cases, they'll even convince their partner to rush into a marriage or moving in together. And then once they're locked in, bam, the manipulation escalates. But when couples in this cycle fall out, the aggressor will usually resort back to the love bombing phase because, well, it worked the first time, didn't it? It's realistically going to work again, reminding them of how they were at the beginning of their relationship. I could talk for hours about love bombing, but we don't have time for that. So do your own research to protect yourself and your friends to spot signs for love bombing because it's so easily missed. Please, trust me. Anyway, we're at that point in the timeline that if you're aware of this case, you probably would have seen this footage. One evening, Christian and Courtney get into the lift from the lobby to their apartment. As soon as they enter the lift, Courtney unleashes and starts hitting and punching Christian in the chest and face, as well as pulling on his hair. Christian remains as calm as possible. He pushes her away gently, lifts his arm up to block her hits. At one point, he sort of puts her in a headlock, which a lot of people jump to the conclusion of, look, he's being aggressive back. But if you watch the footage, he's not, restricting her breathing. He's just trying to maintain the situation. It's not a tight headlock. He's just trying to protect himself and her. Because frankly, Christian was a big guy. If he wanted to hurt Courtney, he could have. He could have easily overpowered her. But in any evidence or CCTV footage, we never even see him remotely touch her in an aggressive manner. He simply blocks the attacks and gently pushes her away. Which, bravo to Christian. And that's testament to his character, because if someone's coming at you like that, it's really hard to stay calm. And he doesn't want to hurt her. He just wants the situation to stop. Clearly, the ups and downs in this relationship and the abuse he was suffering from was starting to really affect Christian. He began messaging friends and loved ones about how he was feeling and what was going on behind closed doors. But he would repeatedly refuse to press any charges against Courtney for any assaults. Christian even wrote Courtney a handwritten letter that said the following: "You are honestly the sweetest and most annoying woman I know, but I would never trade you for anything. We'll go back to loving each other like in the beginning, and I will not hesitate to drag you down the aisle. I want to be everything to you. Your boyfriend, your best friend, your lifelong partner, the man you trust to put his life on the line for you. I swear, Courtney, you are worth more than anything I could ever lose for your sake. I do believe that dreams come true. I would love for you to help me fulfill mine, which may be yours also. I truly love you. That is why I said I love you so many times daily, which you probably don't know why, but I love you, so I want to say it. I truly believe you are the one that God set aside for me. Baby, you are the recipe when I'm stuck in the toughest situations, and the only person I want to share my life with. It's clear from this letter alone that Christian really adores Courtney. He's completely infatuated and besotted with her, and he didn't even want to bear the thought of losing her. I'd argue that he's almost dependent on her at this point, which, again, is really common in domestically abusive relationships. When people are isolated from their friends and family, they're often left with just their abuser, which of course is going to make them feel really reliant. In early 2022, another altercation broke out which resulted in Christian needing stitches in his face. Courtney texts Christian to say, "Hopefully this will give you some time to think about your actions. Enjoy the hospital." Christian replied that he's not going to say anything, and that instead he'll say it was a football accident. In March 2022, Christian sent another message saying the following: "Just letting you know, I woke up feeling like shit and feeling stupid. Not like stupid as in our relationship, but stupid as in like what I told you the other day. Is love going to kill me? I know both of us have sacrificed a lot for each other, but I have sacrificed my pride and my ego. Sometimes telling myself I don't need to win. Hey, just let her have it her way. Say sorry right now and mean it, even if she asks you sincerely or with a threat. I've cried with you, cried about you, cried against you, but at the end of the day, it was all for love. And that is why I'm saying, do you see my love for you? Do you feel it? I always think about it like, why did I take all this? Because I love you. And time after time, I tell you, hey, please, you're hurting me. And you'll say, yeah, but it just repeats. Like, what if the knife sliced my lip and wasn't sliced by my beard, cheek, eye? What might happen next time? I pray there is no next time. February was the worst month I had so far. I got cheated on. I got called that word again. I got slapped in my stitches that have reopened multiple times, and it's not healing fast enough. As we can see, Courtney's aggression is only escalating, becoming more violent, more intense, and resulting in physical stabbings, hospital visits, and stitches. At the end of March 2022, Courtney phoned her mum to ask her to come and stay with her at her apartment for a week while she tried to kick Christian out. So doing what she can do to support her daughter, her mum agrees. So Deborah flies to Florida and stays with them whilst Christian stays on the couch. On the 1st of April 2022, Courtney's mum Deborah returned home, leaving Courtney and Christian to settle their breakup. But the very next day, police were called to their apartment after the receptionist witnessed a heated argument in the lobby. Courtney begged this receptionist not to get officers involved, but knowing what he saw, and after months of continued domestic altercations between the two, the police were called. Officers arrived shortly and Courtney completely changes her tune. She begins contradicting the receptionist's story, saying that she did ask for police and didn't want Christian to follow her into the apartment. She then shifts the story and demands a restraining order. The officers advise her that a restraining order requires court involvement and it has nothing to do with officers. They literally cannot issue one even if they wanted to, which she replies with, "How can I make sure I get the restraining order first?"
What else do you need?
I was told I was going to get a chance to speak.
Go ahead, Courtney. What's going on?
Are you gonna listen?
We're listening. Go ahead. Did you say something wrong?
Yes.
Courtney, what's going on? What do you need?
Okay,
What do you want to say?
I want to be like, I don't want to be like exonerated, I guess, of like anything wrong. I want a restraining order against Christian Obumseli.
We don't issue those.
Because, no, I'm serious.
Courts.
Can I do that?
You have to go to court. You have to go to downtown.
How can I make myself first? Because I know him and he would do it. How can I make myself first?
You got to get there first.
Again, very curious and very incriminating. But it all points back to wanting control. It won't come as a surprise to you that following this incident, Courtney and Christian were back together immediately. But the time frame of good before the bad was becoming few and far between, and the following day, the officers were called again. Except this time, it will be far darker for everyone involved. In the evening of the 3rd of April 2022, 911 was called, where Courtney is frantically screaming down the phone, saying, "My boyfriend is dying of a stab wound." Throughout this call, you can hear Christian in the background saying, "I'm going to die. I'm dying. I can't feel my arms." Courtney is all over the place. She can't listen to the call handler's questions. She can't even remember her own address, making Christian provide the address. Eventually, she stops responding to the call taker altogether, as you can just hear her crying, saying, "Baby, I'm so sorry."
For the dog, what is the address of your emergency?
Well, now I'm going to die.
Area man, please.
3101.
It's 1:30, so 1:30.
I'm gonna die.
Ma'am, listen to me. You need to stop screaming on the line and give me the address.
3101.
I'm gonna die. I can't feel my arm.
3101.
I can't feel my arm.
Ma'am.
So my boyfriend is dying of a stab.
Ma'am, what is the address?
What's the address, baby?
3131.
3131 Northeast 7th Ave. If you have a stab wound to his shoulder, you can sit down.
What do you mean he has a stab wound on his shoulder, ma'am?
Yes, he's bleeding from his shoulder. Listen, please, God, please stop. Please, God, please stop. Baby, I'm so sorry. Baby.
Ma'am, can you hear me? Is he awake?
Police and paramedics arrive on scene where they find Christian laying unconscious in Courtney's arms with a stab wound to the chest. Blood was all over the apartment, in almost every single room, suggesting that Christian had been bleeding out for a while and that the couple continued to fight after he was stabbed. Christian was rushed to hospital where they frantically tried to save his life. Courtney, on the other hand, covered in her partner's blood, was taken to the station, where she was questioned for over 4 hours without a lawyer present. And in classic Courtney interview style, she says a lot of questionable things, including, "I don't think I'm necessarily in trouble, but this shit is serious."
Because I realized, like, how very serious this is. I don't think I'm necessarily in trouble, but, like, I just would like to. Can I just talk to? I have this happened, and I was. The whole situation happened, and I haven't talked to anybody. Even
She started recounting the story to the officers, where she said they woke up fine, especially considering the police had already been called to their apartment prior the day before, following an altercation witnessed by the receptionist. She then goes on to say that the officers didn't need to attend that incident, and the receptionist was only trying to cause trouble.
like, there's no reason for that, and so whatever. I guess he just wanted to call the police or something, because right after that he goes, "Well, we saw you shove him," but that just didn't happen. So it's like he moved from Christian to me. It seemed like he just wanted to cause trouble. Yeah. So the police were involved yesterday when there shouldn't have been.
She said Christian left the apartment at around 1 in the afternoon to take a walk. Courtney spent the day watching YouTube, doing the laundry, and doing a live stream on Instagram. Whilst Christian was out, he stopped sharing his location with her and returned home around 4 p.m. She claimed that she called him up on this, asking why he stopped sharing his location and where he'd been. He became angry and grabbed her by the throat and pushed her to the floor. She called her mum, which apparently only angered Christian more. Courtney said Christian charged towards her, so in defence, she grabbed a kitchen knife and screamed, "Don't come any closer." But he continued to come closer. So she threw the knife at him from a distance of 10 feet.
So I grabbed my knife and I said, "Don't come anywhere closer to me." I had absolutely no intention of using it. I'm on the phone with my mom, and he's coming at me like he's gonna grab either the phone or like the knife or something, and coming at me, and I threw it. And I meant for it to go.
How far away was it?
Like
comparing to what
10 feet. I'm trying to think in my head. I'm trying to make the.
Was it closer than I am?
No, but just further.
Well, like the length of his rope?
No.
Listen, as good as Courtney was at sports, knife throwing wasn't one of these skills that she acquired throughout school. There's no doubt in my mind for a second that if you threw a knife at a human from that distance without any knife throwing skills whatsoever, it would just simply bounce off, or at least scratch or cut the skin, not be plunged inches into his chest. But we'll get more onto that later. To make all of this even more bizarre, before phoning 911, Courtney spent 13 minutes on the phone to her mum, meaning Christian spent this time bleeding out. Throughout the grueling 4-hour interview, Courtney loves to incriminate herself, including saying, "I haven't had time to think about my story."
Like all the details so you don't forget. Just like write it all out clearly so it makes sense to you and makes sense to somebody else. But I haven't had a chance to have a pen and paper, and I haven't really even like fully thought about it. Yeah. So honestly, my answer is I don't remember.
But unfortunately, whilst Courtney was being questioned by the police, at the hospital at around 5 p.m, Christian was pronounced dead, despite doctors' best efforts to save him. This meant that it was up to the officers in the interview room to update Courtney that Christian had passed. I'll put the footage in here for YouTube viewers, but please, watch her reaction closely. The officers say, we have to inform you that Christian did not make it. She clutches at her throat and recoils back into her seat with a gasp. She starts heavy breathing, checking her pulse by her wrist, and says, "Can I have a hug? Am I allowed to do that in here?"
So, we have to inform you that Christian did not make it. Okay. Unfortunately, the doctors did what they could, and
Christian is dead.
Yes.
Oh my God. This is not real, right? Okay. There's no fucking way. Christian died? Can I please have a hug? Am I allowed to do that in here?
Sure. Yeah.
I cannot be left alone in like a room by myself
You won't be.
after this. No, that's not true. That's not real, right?
It is real.
Christian is dead.
Yes.
I don't know, guys. The reaction seems really odd to me. Granted, you can never predict how a person will take news like that, and there is no wrong or right way to react. Shock does crazy things to our brains and behaviour, but I guess that's not a fair thing to comment on, seeing as there is no right or wrong. Who am I to judge? But let me know what you think in the comments on that one. Officers then had to inform Christian's family back in Texas, which they were understandably heartbroken. Once Courtney's interview had been completed, she was admitted to a psychiatric ward for evaluation, but she was released here within 2 days. The reason for this release? Well, within 24 hours of Christian's death, the police decided that it was self-defense. Christian's family and friends were just devastated by this news. They knew that Christian was completely innocent in all of this and that justice had not occurred. So they hire a private lawyer to get to the bottom of it. A GoFundMe page was created for Christian's family to help pay lawyer and court fees, as news circulated on Christian's tragic death. But whilst Christian's family were mourning the murder of their son, an innocent man who simply fell in love with someone who wasn't good for him, what was Courtney doing? Surely she was mourning the loss of her boyfriend of 2 years. No, you'd be wrong to assume so, as within days of her release from the psychiatric hospital, Courtney was back in bars and clubs drinking with her father. And within a few months, she even spent $1.4 million on a home in Texas near her parents. But the internet that was once oh so generous to Courtney had started to turn. People had seen the lift footage and heard of Christian's death. With the evidence of their turbulent relationship being so public, people could clearly see that Courtney was the aggressor and that Christian was far from even defensive. She started getting hate online and out in public, and if people saw her in bars that she would often frequent, they would call her a murderer. Courtney was then admitted to rehab for substance abuse and symptoms of PTSD. It was whilst here in her stay at the rehab centre on the 10th of August 2022 where Courtney was eventually arrested on suspicion of second-degree murder. Christian's family lawyer had worked tirelessly to recover messages and video evidence from Christian's belongings, and he finally had enough together to prove that Courtney wasn't so innocent after all. Court proceedings and hearings began, where a pathologist took the stand. It was revealed to the court that the stab wound was over 3 inches deep and could categorically not have happened by being thrown at him. This had to have been plunged deep, with force, at close range. The knife also went in at a downwards angle, meaning that it would have been plunged kind of overarm, like downwards. As a result, the prosecution asked the pathologist the post-mortem's decision on the cause of death, where it was revealed to the court that Christian died of a stab wound to the right subclavian artery, meaning the manner of death was homicide. This completely contradicted Courtney's story of throwing the knife at Christian after he attacked her. Furthermore, there were no injuries or marks found on Courtney when she was initially questioned that supported this theory, meaning that even when he was being attacked with a knife by Courtney, he didn't touch her. During initial proceedings in evidence of court, all of Courtney's previous convictions had been revealed to the court, including past relationships, where she tried to stab her ex-partner and also successfully managed to break another ex's jaw. The prosecution managed to obtain multiple messages from Christian's phone evidencing multiple attacks, alongside secret video recordings and audio recordings he made on his phone during arguments. In these recordings, you can hear Courtney screaming in Christian's face, screaming racial slurs at him.
I'm so sorry.
So shut up and let me f***ing slap. Get off of me! You literally talked to her without telling me!
Courtney, I was on a bike ride and she passed me and I said, hi, you and Courtney are having a live chat. My bad, I forgot to tell you that. That doesn't make you to act and call me a
I'm actually not having a good day, where I actually literally want to kill you, but you don't take me seriously.
In another, he audibly says, I apologise to you, and you hit me, to which Courtney menacingly whispers, shut the fuck up. Her defence tried to block this from being even remotely used as evidence in court, as it was secretly recorded by Christian without Courtney's knowledge or consent. But luckily, the judge denied this block. Her defence also tried to get her on bail until trial, but the judge also denied this, saying that the probability of Courtney being a flight risk was too high. And just to try their luck, Courtney's defence also requested a gag order, which is a type of injunction used to keep information private from the public. But clearly, from everything I've been able to find out about this case, this was also denied. And when you're that famous, I don't think that's possible, to be honest. The trial for Courtney's defence was due to occur in 2023, where in Florida the second-degree murder charges usually are around 16 years in prison. Courtney, now 27 years old at the time of recording this, remains in jail at the Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Centre on a second-degree murder charge. However, I can't locate that a trial even began, or that sentencing for Christian's murder has taken place yet, which might have something to do with the fact that in January 2024, just a few months ago, new information came to light. Courtney's parents, Deborah and Kim, had taken Christian's laptop whilst cleaning Courtney's apartment. Whilst Courtney was in rehab, Courtney and her parents had a group chat where they exchanged messages trying to guess the password to get into the laptop. Now, obviously, there seems to be a clear reason as to why Courtney desperately wanted to get her parents into this laptop, and that is to delete evidence. Courtney's parents were arrested, and Courtney was brought into court to hear the new charges being presented against her. According to the arrest warrant affidavit, they are charged with one count of unauthorised access of a computer system or electronic device of Christian's which they did not have permission to do so after his death. Courtney's defence attorney counters that since Courtney was authorised to use this laptop as it was a shared laptop, she could then extend that authority to her parents. But that begs the question, if this was a shared laptop, why didn't Courtney know the password? Their defence have said that they also shouldn't be allowed to use this as evidence in court because the iCloud of Courtney and her mother contain private messages with lawyers and attorneys that cannot be revealed in court. So whilst Courtney is currently in prison waiting a sentence for second-degree murder and now the laptop, her parents were released on bail. And the latest we have on that is that the courts are still deliberating as to whether this can be used as further evidence in the trial. Since their daughter's arrest, Courtney's parents have openly said in interviews that Courtney often feared for her life and that the footage of the lift clearly shows how easily Christian could overpower her by putting her in a headlock. But you know, they gloss over the fact that their daughter actually hits Christian over 15 times in the space of a couple of minutes. Whilst I was trying to research any sentencing updates for Courtney in this case, I was met with the following message on Google. The recent ruling by the Court of Justice of the European Union has profound consequences for search engines in Europe. The court found that certain users have the right to ask search engines like Google to remove results for queries that include a person's name. To qualify, the results shown would need to be inadequate, irrelevant, no longer relevant, or excessive. Bloody Brexit. But that brings us pretty much up to date. We don't have a sentencing yet, but at least we can go to sleep tonight knowing that Courtney is in prison and will not be getting bail enjoying her millions of dollars in the Miami sun. But instead she swapped the bleach hair, the makeup and the Botox for red prison clothes and a dark, dingy cell. It's truly an awful case, but it definitely highlights that male victims of domestic abuse are not taken seriously enough. Probably even more so in this case because Christian was black. Had the roles been reversed in this case, I think sentencing would have happened within months. Christian's life was taken away for him. For what? Power? Control? He was a kind and gentle, successful young man with his whole life ahead of him, but now he'll never get to experience real love. Courtney, on the other hand, had it all. Had what most people would die to have, some might argue, and she threw it all away. But I think from what we've seen, it's clear that there were definitely some struggles going on for Courtney. I definitely suspect some narcissism going on there, but there's also substance abuse, which I think only accelerates behaviour like this. We can only hope that in the year 2024, Courtney will be sentenced and that Christian's family can finally seek some sort of comfort, knowing that justice has been sought for their son. And there we have it, guys. That was the case of Christian Obumseli and Courtney Clenney. So go do something nice for yourself today. Drink your water, go out for a walk, get some sunshine. Best believe, as the weather gets warmer, I'm going to be reminding you even more so to drink and stay hydrated. As always, thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. If you're listening on Spotify, please leave a review. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment below. What did you think of this case, and are there any cases you want me to cover next? Thank you for your continued love and support to me on this platform. I really, really couldn't do it without you. So as always, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.